Yeah, so someone wrote in and said, what do you look at first when helping clients reduce W-2 taxes?
That's a good question. So what do you look at first? So W-2, assuming you're working for somebody else, or it's not your company that you have a W-2 with. The first thing to look at is, well, it's kind of two things. So one is directly impacting the W-2. The only real way to do that is to attack your retirement strategies. So if you have qualified 401ks or 403bs or 457s or whatever, then those are places to affect that W-2 number. Other than that, there's not many ways to directly affect the W-2 number. If you can convert to contractor, that's a whole other thing. That's something that's down the line. We talk about that later. But first, for some people, that's possible. For other people, it's not. Just kind of depends. The other thing is that we look at is what else is going on in your tax world. When I'm talking to a new client, my favorite question is to ask them, well, what do you do when you're not at work? And I just let people talk. And all kinds of answers to that question. Very few people actually just go home, sit on the couch, and watch TV. It does happen, but it's rare. Most people are doing something outside of work. Just some answers that I've had. Raising snakes in a spare bedroom, raising and selling snakes. I had one woman who was an attorney. She was a junior associate. She was a young attorney. And you would think, lawyer, that's kind of all you're doing, and you probably don't have time or energy or interest in other things. That's not true. So this particular attorney, she would go around the neighborhood and teach people how to cook in their own kitchens. And another person said, "Oh, I raise coral in my garage and sell it to saltwater aquarium people." I've had people just all kinds of random stuff. A lot of agricultural type things like the snakes. I've had snakes, coral, invertebrates, lizards, fish, a lot of agricultural type thing. I actually think this is just an aside, but I actually think there is something about dealing with living things that people miss in kind of modern city life, so that they do these things involving agricultural type activities. But yeah, so a lot of those other things, whether it's some kind of side hustle that they're doing, whether it's, oh, I also have these 3 houses that I own, and rent out, or it's, my wife does this, or my kid is streaming on YouTube and making 10 grand a month. That was one that actually happened. So, what we do is we try to shape those other things in order to be as tax advantaged as possible in order to potentially counteract that W-2 income. Because again, looking at the W-2 directly is, fairly limited. And so those are the first avenues of attack. And then from there, there's all the other stuff that we could go into. But those are the number 1 and 2 that we look at.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, Russ. So we have a question from one of our clients.